Welcome back, dear listener. I'm so glad you're still here with us. If you're lying in bed now, I hope you're comfortable. I hope your breathing is slow and steady. I hope the weight of the day has lifted from your shoulders. Tonight, we continue Emma's journey. We step back into the quiet world of Willowbrook. We walk through the overgrown garden. We feel the soil between our fingers. We discover something hidden, something beautiful, something that connects the past to the present. So relax. Let your eyes close if they want to. Let the words wash over you like gentle rain. And let's begin. Emma woke up early on a Monday morning. The sun was just rising. The sky was pale blue with soft pink clouds. The birds were already singing. She made her coffee, wrapped herself in a warm cardigan, and stepped outside. The garden looked different in the morning light. It looked peaceful. It looked full of potential. But it also looked overwhelming. Weeds still covered half the vegetable patch. The stone wall needed repair. The old greenhouse had 3 broken panes of glass. The apple trees needed pruning. The grass was long and tangled. Emma took a deep breath. She remembered Doris's words. Start small. Don't try to do everything at once. She decided to focus on one area. The corner near the stone wall. It was overgrown with brambles and tall grass. But underneath she could see good soil. Dark, rich soil. The kind of soil that could grow anything. She went to the shed and found old gardening tools. A rusted spade. A wooden rake. A pair of thick gloves. She put on the gloves. She picked up the spade. And she began to work. The first hour was hard. The brambles had thick roots. They fought back. They scratched her arms. They made her sweat. But she kept going. She pulled. She dug. She cleared. Slowly, steadily, the corner began to open up. The soil appeared. The sunlight reached the ground. The space felt lighter. By mid-morning, she had cleared about 3 square meters. She stood back and looked at her work. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't finished. But it was a start, and that was enough. She went inside to wash her hands and drink some water. She looked in the mirror. Her face was flushed. Her hair was messy. There was dirt on her cheeks. But she was smiling. A real, tired, happy smile. This was working. This was real. Over the next few days, Emma continued her work. She woke up early. She drank her coffee. She walked into the garden. She worked until her arms ached and her back felt stiff. Then she rested. She ate lunch. She read a book. Then she went back out. It was a simple rhythm. Work, rest, work, rest. No emails, no deadlines, no rush. Just the sun, the soil, and the sound of birds. But village gardening was not as easy as it looked in books. The weather changed quickly. One day was warm and sunny. The next day was cold and rainy. The rain turned the soil to mud. The mud made walking difficult. The mud stuck to her boots. The mud slowed her down. Emma learned to work around the weather. On rainy days, she stayed inside. She cleaned the cottage. She organized her books. She cooked simple meals. She listened to the rain on the roof. It sounded like gentle drums. It sounded peaceful. On sunny days, she worked hard. She dug. She planted. She watered. She learned which plants liked sun and which plants liked shade. She learned how to test the soil. She learned how to space the seeds so they could grow. She made mistakes. Of course she made mistakes. She planted tomatoes too close together. She forgot to water the lettuce for 2 days. She pulled out a plant that was actually a weed, but then realized it was a young herb. She laughed at herself. She didn't get angry. She just tried again. Doris came by often. She brought tea. She brought advice. She brought patience. "You're doing well," Doris said one afternoon, watching Emma stake up some young bean plants. "Better than I expected, honestly. Most beginners give up after the first week. But you're still here. You're still trying. That's what matters." "I want to learn," Emma said. "I want to understand this garden. I want to honor what Mrs. Miller built." Doris nodded slowly. "Mrs. Miller didn't build it in a day. She built it over 40 years. She planted one seed at a time. She watered one plant at a time. She loved one flower at a time, That's how gardens grow. That's how life grows, one small step at a time. Emma liked that. One small step at a time. She repeated it in her head. It felt true. It felt comforting. But then, the challenges grew bigger. It started with the stone wall. The old boundary wall behind the vegetable patch had a large crack. Stones were loose. Ivy had pulled them apart. Emma knew it needed repair. If it collapsed, it could damage the plants. It could be dangerous. She didn't know how to fix it. She had never built a wall. She had never mixed mortar. She had never handled heavy stones. She asked Tom, the village handyman. He came over on a Thursday afternoon. He looked at the wall, he nodded. He measured the crack. He checked the foundation. "It's not too bad," Tom said. "The foundation is still good. The stones are solid, it just needs repointing. New mortar between the stones, and a few stones need to be reset." "Can you teach me?" Emma asked. "I'd like to learn." Tom smiled. "I can show you. But it's hard work. Heavy work. Are you sure?" "I'm sure," Emma said. So Tom taught her. He showed her how to mix the mortar. He showed her how to clean the old joints. He showed her how to press the new mortar into the gaps. He showed her how to lift the stones carefully and place them back. Emma learned quickly. But her body struggled. Her shoulders ached. Her hands blistered. Her knees hurt from kneeling on the hard ground. By the end of the first day, she could barely lift her arms. By the second day, she could barely walk up the stairs. She wanted to quit. She really did. She sat on the back step, drinking water, looking at the half-finished wall, feeling frustrated. "Why am I doing this?" she thought. "I'm not a builder. I'm not a farmer. I'm a graphic designer from London. I should be sitting at a desk. I should be drinking coffee in a cafe. I should not be covered in dust and mud." The doubt crept in. It whispered in her ear, "You don't belong here. You're not strong enough. You're not skilled enough. Go back. Go back to the city. Go back to what you know." She almost listened. She almost packed her tools and went inside. But then Doris walked by. She was carrying a basket of fresh vegetables. She stopped when she saw Emma sitting on the step. "Rough day?" Doris asked gently. Emma nodded. "I'm tired, I'm sore, I'm wondering if I'm making a mistake." Doris sat down beside her. She didn't offer quick solutions. She didn't say you can do it. She just sat. She waited. "Mrs. Miller had a bad year," Doris said finally. "About 10 years ago. She fell in the garden, broke her wrist, couldn't work for months. She was angry. She was sad. She thought the garden would die without her. But it didn't. The plants kept growing. The weeds kept growing. Life kept going. When she could work again, she didn't try to fix everything at once. She fixed one thing, then another, then another. Slowly, the garden came back, just like she came back. Emma listened. She felt the words settle in her chest. "You don't have to be perfect," Doris said. "You don't have to be strong every day. You just have to keep showing up, even if you only do 5 minutes, even if you only pull one weed. That's enough. That's more than enough." Emma took a deep breath. She stood up. She picked up her trowel. She walked back to the wall. She mixed a small batch of mortar. She cleaned one joint. She filled it. She pressed it smooth. It took 10 minutes. But it was done. And it felt good. She didn't work for hours that day. She worked for 30 minutes. Then she stopped. She went inside. She rested. She didn't feel guilty. She felt proud. She was learning. Not just about gardening. Not just about walls. But about herself. About patience. About persistence. About the quiet strength that comes from showing up, day after day, even when it's hard. 2 weeks later, the wall was finished. It looked solid. It looked beautiful. The new mortar was still drying, but the stones stood straight. The ivy could be trained back later. For now, it was secure. Emma celebrated with a quiet dinner. She cooked pasta. She opened a bottle of cider. She sat by the window and watched the sunset paint the sky orange and purple. She felt tired, but she felt accomplished. She was changing. She could feel it. Her hands were stronger. Her mind was quieter. Her heart was lighter. London felt like a distant memory. Willowbrook felt like home. But the garden still held secrets. Emma knew it. She could feel it. The way the land sloped near the old apple tree. The way the soil felt different in one corner. The way Mrs. Miller had left certain plants untouched, as if protecting something. Emma decided to explore, not with tools, not with plans, just with curiosity. She walked to the back corner of the garden, near the stone wall and the old pear tree. The grass was thick here. The ground was uneven. She knelt down and brushed the grass aside. Underneath she saw something. Not a stone, not a root. Something smooth, something flat, something buried just beneath the surface. She used her hands to dig carefully. She didn't want to damage it. She brushed away the soil. She revealed a metal edge. Then another. Then a lid. It was a box. An old, rusted metal box. About the size of a shoebox. It was buried deep, as if placed there long ago and forgotten. Emma's heart beat faster. She looked around. No one was watching. The village was quiet. The sun was low. It felt like a moment meant for her alone. She pulled the box out. It was heavy. The metal was cold. The rust made it rough. She carried it to the patio table. She found a cloth. She wiped the dirt away. She examined the lid. There was no lock, just a simple hinge. But it was stuck. Years of moisture and soil had sealed it shut. Emma went inside and found a small screwdriver. She came back. She worked carefully around the edges. She applied gentle pressure. She waited. She tried again. Finally, with a soft click, the lid opened. Emma held her breath. She lifted the lid slowly. Inside, wrapped in oilcloth, were several items. A leather-bound journal, a bundle of letters tied with string, a small wooden box, a pressed flower, still colorful after all these years, and a photograph, slightly faded but clear enough to see. Emma picked up the photograph first. It showed a younger Mrs. Miller. She was standing in this same garden, but the garden was different. Full of roses, full of color, full of life. She was smiling. She looked happy. She looked peaceful. Behind her, a man stood with his arm around her shoulders. He had kind eyes and a gentle smile. They looked like they belonged to each other, like they belonged to this place. Emma felt a lump in her throat. She placed the photograph on the table. She picked up the journal. The cover was worn. The pages were yellowed. The handwriting was elegant, careful, old-fashioned. Emma opened to the first page. The date at the top read, April 12, 1978. She began to read. Today, Arthur planted the first rose bush. He says it will take 3 years to bloom fully. I told him I don't have 3 years. He laughed and said, "Love, we have all the time in the world. I hope he's right." Emma turned the page. She read more. The journal wasn't just about gardening. It was about life, about marriage, about hope, about fear, about the quiet moments that make up a lifetime. June 3, 1982. Arthur is sick. The doctor says it's serious. I don't know what to do. The garden feels too big today. Too quiet. I water the roses anyway. I talk to them. I tell them to stay strong. Maybe they'll listen. September 15, 1982. Arthur is gone. The house is empty. The garden is empty. I want to leave. I want to sell everything. But the roses are blooming. They're beautiful. I can't let them die. Not yet. So I'll stay. I'll water them. I'll watch them. I'll keep going. One day at a time. Emma's eyes filled with tears. She wiped them away gently. She kept reading. March 10, 1990. The children have grown. They've moved away. London, Manchester, Bristol. They visit when they can. but the house is quiet. The garden is my companion now. It doesn't ask for anything. It just grows. It just lives. It teaches me how to do the same. August 22nd, 2005. I found a metal box today. I buried it near the pear tree. Inside, I put Arthur's letters. My favorite pressed flowers. The photograph from our wedding day. I don't know why. Maybe I wanted to leave something behind. Maybe I wanted someone to know we were here, that we loved this place, that we loved each other. If you find this, whoever you are, please don't be sad. Be glad. The garden remembers. The earth remembers. And I am at peace. Emma closed the journal. She sat in silence. The wind rustled the leaves. The birds sang softly. The sun dipped below the horizon. She understood now. The garden wasn't just plants and soil. It was memory. It was love. It was resilience. Mrs. Miller hadn't just grown flowers. She had grown a life. She had turned grief into beauty. She had turned loneliness into purpose. She had turned time into something meaningful. And now, Emma was part of that story. She wasn't replacing Mrs. Miller. She was continuing her. She was watering the same soil. She was planting in the same earth. She was breathing the same air. The connection felt deep. It felt real. It felt like a gift. Emma opened the small wooden box from the metal container. Inside was a single key. Old. Brass. Worn smooth by time. She didn't know what it opened. But she kept it. She placed it in her pocket. She felt it against her leg. A small weight. A quiet promise. She gathered the items carefully. She wrapped them back in the oilcloth. She placed them in the metal box. But she didn't bury it again. She carried it inside. She placed it on the bookshelf in the living room, next to her own books, next to her own story. It belonged here now. It was part of the cottage, part of the garden, part of her. That night, Emma slept deeply. No dreams, no worries, just rest, just peace. The next morning, she woke up with a new sense of purpose. She didn't feel overwhelmed by the garden anymore. She felt invited by it. She felt trusted by it. She walked outside. She looked at the vegetable patch. She looked at the stone wall. She looked at the apple trees. She looked at the corner where the box had been buried. She smiled. She began her day slowly. She made coffee. She sat on the step. She watched the light change. Then she picked up her tools. She didn't rush. She didn't force. She just worked. Gently. Carefully. With respect. She pruned the apple trees. She cleared the last of the brambles. She planted marigolds along the vegetable border. She watered everything thoroughly. She spoke to the plants, like Mrs. Miller had. Not because she thought they could hear her, but because it made her feel connected. Because it made her feel part of something larger. Doris came by in the afternoon. She brought lemon cake. She saw the progress. She saw the calm in Emma's eyes. "You found something," Doris said quietly. It wasn't a question. Emma nodded. Mrs. Miller's box. Her journal. Her letters. Doris's eyes softened. I wondered if it was still there. She told me about it once, years ago. She said she buried it for whoever came next. She said the garden chooses its caretakers. It doesn't just belong to anyone, it belongs to those who listen. I'm listening, Emma said. I know you are, Doris replied. And that's why it's working. That's why you're not running away. That's why you're staying. They sat together on the patio. They ate cake. They talked about small things. The weather. The village fair coming up. The new batch of books at the shop. But underneath the small talk, there was a deeper understanding. A shared respect for the land. For the past. For the quiet rhythm of village life. When Doris left, Emma felt grounded. She felt rooted. Like the trees in the garden. Like the stones in the wall. Like the seeds in the soil. She wasn't just living in Willowbrook anymore. She was becoming part of it. The weeks passed. The garden transformed. slowly, steadily, beautifully. The vegetable patch produced its first harvest. Lettuce, radishes, early carrots. Emma picked them with care. She washed them in the old sink. She ate them fresh. They tasted better than anything she had ever bought in a supermarket. They tasted like sunlight, like soil, like patience. The marigolds bloomed, bright orange and yellow. They attracted bees. They attracted butterflies. They brought life to the borders. The apple trees dropped their first ripe fruit. Emma collected them in a basket. She made applesauce. She shared it with Doris. She shared it with Jim. She shared it with Mr. Thompson at the shop. The village noticed. Not in a loud way, not with praise or attention, but in quiet gestures. A wave from across the lane. A nod at the post office. An extra loaf of bread left on her step. A jar of honey from a neighbor's bees. Emma accepted them all. She didn't feel like an outsider anymore. She felt like a neighbor, like a friend, like a member of the community. She still worked on her freelance design projects. She still earned money. She still paid bills. But the work felt different now. It wasn't her whole identity. It was just one part of her life. The garden was another part. The village was another part. The quiet mornings were another part. The slow evenings were another part. She was whole. Not perfect, not fixed, but whole. One evening, she sat in the living room with the metal box on the table. She opened the journal again. She read a random page. October 5th, 1998. The leaves are falling. The garden is resting. I am resting too. I used to fear the quiet. I used to fill it with noise, with plans, with worry. Now I let it be. I let it breathe. I let it teach me. The quiet is not empty. It is full. Full of peace. Full of memory. Full of love. Emma closed the book. She looked out the window. The sky was dark. The stars were visible. The cottage was warm. The fire was lit. The house was quiet. She whispered, "Thank you, Mrs. Miller." She didn't know if the words would reach anywhere, but she felt them. She felt the gratitude. She felt the connection. She felt the continuity of life. She went to bed early. She pulled the blankets up to her chin. She listened to the wind. She listened to the house settling. She listened to her own breathing. And as she drifted off to sleep, she knew this was just one chapter. There were more seasons to come. More challenges. More discoveries. More quiet moments. More slow, beautiful days. But she was ready. She was rooted. She was home. Welcome back, dear listener. I'm so glad you're still here with us. If you're resting now, I hope you're comfortable. I hope your body feels heavy and relaxed. I hope your mind is quiet. Take a slow breath in. Let it out gently. There's no rush. There's no deadline. Just this moment. Just these words. Just the quiet path ahead. Tonight, we return to Willowbrook. We step into the warmth of summer. We walk through the village square. We hear the sound of laughter, the clink of cups, the soft music drifting through the trees. We follow Emma as she takes another small step. Not a big leap, not a dramatic change, just a quiet, steady step forward. Into community. Into belonging. Into peace. Let's begin. Summer had arrived in Willowbrook. The days grew longer. The sun rose early and set late. The light was golden and soft. It poured over the stone cottages. It warmed the wooden fences. It made the garden glow. The air smelled of cut grass, of blooming flowers, of warm earth. It smelled of summer. Emma loved it. She loved the slow rhythm of the season. She loved waking up to birdsong instead of traffic. She loved drinking coffee on the step, while the dew still clung to the grass. She loved watching the light change across the garden, hour by hour, day by day. It felt like time had softened. It felt like life had slowed down to a pace she could finally keep. But summer in Willowbrook also meant one thing: the village fair. Emma first heard about it on a Tuesday afternoon. She was in the village shop, buying milk and bread. Mr. Thompson was behind the counter, polishing a glass jar with a soft cloth. The shop was quiet. Just the hum of the old refrigerator. Just the tick of the wall clock. Just the gentle rustle of a newspaper in the corner. "Fair's in 3 weeks," Mr. Thompson said suddenly, looking up with a smile. "Biggest day of the year. You'll be there, I hope." Emma paused. "The village fair? I've heard people mention it, but I didn't know it was so soon." "Oh, it's always the first Saturday of July," Mr. Thompson said. "Doesn't matter if it rains, doesn't matter if it shines. We set up the tables, we hang the bunting, we bake the cakes, we play the music. The whole village comes out, even old Mrs. Patterson, and she hasn't left her garden in 2 years." He chuckled. "You should participate, Emma. Bring something. Anything. A cake, a jar of jam, a knitted scarf. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be yours." Emma felt a flutter in her chest. Not fear. Not exactly. But something close to it. Something like uncertainty. "I've never been to a village fair before. I don't know what to bring. I'm not much of a baker. And my knitting is, well, it's more like tangled wool." Mr. Thompson laughed. A warm, rolling sound. "Then bring jam. Everyone loves jam. And you've got those wild berries growing near your stone wall. I saw them last week. Blackberries, raspberries. Perfect for preserves. Doris will help you. She's the jam queen of Willowbrook. 3 years running, I tell you." Emma smiled weakly. "I'll think about it." But she didn't just think about it. She talked about it. That evening, she walked to Doris's house. She knocked on the door. Doris answered, wiping flour from her hands. She was in the middle of baking. The house smelled of vanilla and warm butter. "Emma, come in," Doris said, ushering her inside. "I was just testing a scone recipe. Have one?" Emma took a scone. It was perfect. Crisp on the outside, soft in the middle. She didn't dare try to match it. "Mr. Thompson mentioned the fair," she said carefully. "He said I should bring something. He suggested jam." Doris's eyes lit up. "Oh, wonderful. Yes, jam is perfect. It's simple. It's honest. It's made from the land. That's what the fair is about. Not competition, not showing off, just sharing, just being together." "But what if it doesn't set?" Emma asked. "What if it's too runny, or too sweet, or not sweet enough? What if people taste it and politely nod and walk away?" Doris placed a hand on Emma's shoulder. Her touch was light, but grounding. "Listen to me, dear. The fair isn't a test. It's a gathering. People don't come to judge. They come to connect. They come to taste a piece of your garden, a piece of your summer, a piece of your care. If your jam is a little soft, it's still yours. If it's a little tart, it's still yours. That's what matters. Your presence, not your perfection." Emma nodded slowly. The words settled in her mind. Presence over perfection. She repeated them silently. They felt true. They felt freeing. "All right," she said. "I'll make jam." The next morning, Emma walked to the back corner of her garden. The wild berries grew thick along the stone wall. They were tangled in brambles, hidden under leaves, protected by thorns. But they were ripe, deep purple, plump, juicy. She could smell their sweetness in the warm air. She put on thick gloves. She took a large bowl. She began to pick. Carefully. Slowly. The thorns scratched her arms. The leaves brushed her face. The sun warmed her back. She didn't mind. There was something meditative about it. Reach, pluck, drop, reach, pluck, drop. The rhythm was steady. The work was simple. The berries collected slowly, one by one, until the bowl was half full. Then 3/4 full. Then full. She carried the bowl inside. She washed the berries gently in cold water. She watched the dirt rinse away. She watched the water turn slightly purple. She dried them on a clean cloth. She measured sugar. She found a large pot. She stirred. She waited. She watched the mixture bubble. She listened to the soft pop of the berries breaking down. She skimmed the foam from the top. She tested the set with a cold spoon. She learned. She adjusted. She tried again. The first batch was too runny. She didn't throw it away. She poured it into a small jug. She would use it as a syrup for pancakes. The second batch was too thick. It stuck to the spoon. It didn't pour. She didn't panic. She added a little water. She stirred gently. She learned. She adjusted. By the third batch, she found the balance. The sugar melted completely. The berries softened but kept their shape. The liquid thickened slowly, steadily, until it coated the back of a spoon. She ladled it into sterilized jars. She sealed them. She labeled them with simple tags. Emma's Garden Jam. July. Willowbrook. She placed them on the kitchen counter. 6 jars. Small. Imperfect. Hers. She felt a quiet pride. Not loud. Not boastful. Just quiet. Just steady. Just real. The days leading up to the fair passed quickly, but gently. Emma continued her garden work. She watered the vegetables. She tied up the tomatoes. She cleared the paths. She pruned the rose bushes Mrs. Miller had left behind. She talked to the plants. Not because she thought they understood words, but because speaking aloud made her feel connected. It made her feel present. It made her feel part of the rhythm. Doris visited often. She brought tea. She brought advice. She brought quiet encouragement. They sat on the patio. They watched the bees move from flower to flower. They listened to the wind in the apple trees. They talked about small things. The weather, the new lambs in the field, the book Doris was reading, the music playing softly from Jim's pub radio. "You're ready," Doris said one afternoon, sipping her tea. "Not because your jam is perfect, but because you're showing up. That's what the village needs. Not flawless contributions, just willing hearts." Emma smiled. "I'm still nervous." "Good," Doris said. "Nervous means you care. Caring means you're present. Present means you belong." The words echoed in Emma's mind. She let them settle. She didn't fight the nervousness. She didn't push it away. She just acknowledged it. It was there. It was human. It was okay. Saturday morning arrived. The sky was clear. The air was cool but warming quickly. Mist clung to the fields. The grass was damp. The village square was already bustling. Emma woke early. She didn't rush. She made coffee. She drank it slowly. She dressed in comfortable clothes. A simple cotton dress, sturdy shoes, a light cardigan. She gathered her 6 jars of jam. She placed them in a woven basket. She added a small sign, "Willow Lane Garden Jam." Made with care. She walked to the village square. The scene was already taking shape. Wooden tables were arranged in a wide circle. Bunting hung between the lampposts. Red, white, blue. Faded by sun, but bright with history. Stalls were being set up. A cake stall, a craft stall, a plant stall, a book exchange, a local honey stand, a quilt display, a table of hand-carved wooden toys. People moved with purpose but without hurry. They carried trays. They hung signs. They arranged flowers. They laughed. They greeted each other. They asked after families. They remembered names. They remembered stories. Emma found a small empty space near the edge of the circle. It was quiet. It was shaded by an old oak tree. It was perfect. She set down her basket. She arranged the jars neatly. She placed her sign in front. She stepped back. She breathed. Her heart beat a little faster. Her palms felt slightly damp. She watched people pass by. Some glanced at her table. Some smiled. Some kept walking. She didn't take it personally. She knew this was just the beginning. The fair didn't start all at once. It unfolded slowly, like a flower opening to the sun. She sat on a folding chair beside her table. She waited. She watched. She listened. A church bell chimed 9 o'clock. The sound rolled through the square, clear and steady. It was a signal. The fair was open. People began to gather. Not in a rush. Not in a crowd. But in a steady flow. Families with children. Older couples walking slowly. Teenagers trying to look bored but secretly smiling. Dogs on leashes, tails wagging. Everyone moved at their own pace. Everyone found their place. Emma's first visitor was a young mother with two small children. The children ran ahead, then stopped, then ran back. The mother smiled apologetically. Sorry, they're excited. It's their first fair. It's okay, Emma said. Welcome. The mother looked at the jam. Oh, homemade! How lovely! What's in it? Blackberries and raspberries. From the garden at the end of Willow Lane. The mother's eyes softened. Mrs. Miller's old place? Yes. She had the best berries in the county, the mother said. I used to buy them from her when I was a girl. I'm glad someone's keeping the garden alive. She bought 2 jars. She paid with exact change. She smiled. Thank you, dear. It smells like summer. Thank you, Emma said. The words felt simple, but they carried weight. More people came. An older man with a walking stick. He tasted a small sample from a spoon Emma had prepared. He nodded slowly. Good balance. Not too sweet. Good set. You've got a patient hand. He bought 1 jar. He tipped his hat. Welcome to the fair, young lady. A group of teenagers wandered by. They laughed. They pointed. One of them, a girl with braided hair, stopped. Is this yours? She asked. Yes, Emma said. Cool. My Nan makes jam too. She says you can tell how much someone cares by how the jar looks. Yours looks. Careful. She bought a jar. She left with a smile. Emma didn't speak much. She didn't need to. She smiled. She nodded. She handed over jars. She accepted coins. She watched faces light up. She felt the quiet exchange of energy. Not transaction. Connection. Sharing. Presence. By midday, 4 jars were gone. 2 remained. Emma didn't mind. She hadn't come to sell out. She had come to be there, to participate, to stand in the circle, to be part of the rhythm. She stood up. She stretched her legs. She walked slowly around the square. She observed. She absorbed. She didn't analyze. She just watched. At the cake stall, Doris was arranging slices of lemon drizzle. She caught Emma's eye and winked. Emma waved back. No words needed. The gesture was enough. At the plant stall, Tom was repotting seedlings. He nodded when he saw her. She nodded back. The exchange was quiet, but solid, like a handshake without hands. At the bandstand, a small group of musicians tuned their instruments. A fiddle, a guitar, a flute. They began to play. Not a polished performance, not a concert, just music. Simple, familiar, old tunes, new arrangements. The sound drifted through the trees. It wrapped around the tables. It settled over the crowd like a warm blanket. Emma found a wooden bench under the oak tree. She sat. She closed her eyes for a moment. She listened. She felt the sun on her face. She felt the breeze in her hair. She felt the vibration of the music in the ground beneath her feet. She felt the presence of people around her. Not as strangers, not as an audience, but as neighbors, as companions, as part of the same quiet, breathing whole. She realized something then. It didn't hit her like a wave. It settled like dust in sunlight, slow, gentle, inevitable. She belonged. Not because she had earned it, not because she had proven herself, not because she had passed a test or won a prize, but because she was here, because she had shown up, because she had shared a piece of her garden, because she had stood in the circle, because she had listened, because she had breathed the same air, because she had let the village hold her without demanding she hold it back perfectly. Belonging wasn't a destination, it was a practice, a daily choice, a quiet yes, a steady presence, a willingness to be imperfect but willing, to be new but open, to be alone but not lonely. She opened her eyes. The square was alive. Children ran with paper cones of candy. Old men played chess on a checkered board. Women shared recipes over tea. Teenagers took photos but also talked. Dogs slept in the shade. Bees moved between flowers. The music played on. The sun climbed higher. The day unfolded. Emma didn't need to do anything else. She just needed to be here. To watch. To feel. To remember. To let it in. The afternoon warmed. The light turned golden. The crowd thinned slowly, naturally. People went home for lunch. People rested. People prepared for evening. Emma packed her remaining 2 jars. She folded her sign. She carried her basket back to Willow Lane. The walk was quiet. The lane was shaded. The cottage waited. The garden breathed. The stone wall stood firm. The apple trees swayed gently. Everything was as it should be. Not perfect, not finished, but alive, but steady, but home. She placed the last 2 jars on the kitchen shelf, next to the others, next to the metal box, next to the journal, next to the pressed flower, next to the photograph. They all belong together, past and present, memory and moment, loss and growth, stillness and movement. All of it. All of her. She made a simple dinner. Bread, cheese, tomatoes from the garden, a glass of water. She ate slowly. She chewed carefully. She tasted each bite. She didn't rush. She didn't scroll. She didn't plan tomorrow. She just ate, just rested, just was. After dinner, she stepped outside again. The sky was turning pink. The swallows dipped and soared. The first stars appeared, faint but certain. The air cooled. The earth exhaled. The day released its warmth. The night prepared its quiet. Emma sat on the front step. She pulled her cardigan tighter. She watched the light fade. She listened to the sounds of the village settling. A door closing. A dog barking softly. A bicycle bell ringing in the distance. A window opening. A curtain drawn. A light switching off. She thought about the fair. Not the transactions. Not the jars sold. But the moments. The smiles. The nods. The quiet exchanges. The music. The bench. The realization. The belonging. She hadn't arrived. She wasn't finished. She would still have hard days. She would still make mistakes. She would still doubt. She would still feel alone sometimes, but she knew now that belonging wasn't about never feeling alone. It was about knowing you're never truly alone. That the village, the garden, the past, the present, the people, the land, they were all holding her, gently, steadily, without demand, without condition. She stood up. She walked inside. She locked the door. She turned off the lights. She climbed the stairs slowly. Each step creaked softly, familiar, comforting, like an old friend greeting her. She undressed. She washed her face. She brushed her hair. She slipped under the blankets. The sheets were cool. The pillow was soft. The room was dark. The house was quiet. The world was still. She lay on her back. She placed her hands on her stomach. She felt her breath rise and fall. In, out, in, out. Slow, steady, natural. She didn't fight sleep. She didn't chase it. She just let it come, like the tide, like the seasons, like the jam setting in the jar, like the garden growing in the soil, like the village breathing in the square. She whispered, almost silently, "Thank you." Not to anyone specific. To everything. To the day. To the fair. To the jam. To the bench. To the music. To the smiles. To the quiet. To the belonging. To the presence. To the peace. Her eyes closed. Her breathing deepened. Her body relaxed. Her mind softened. The day faded into memory. The night welcomed her in. And as she drifted into sleep, she knew tomorrow would come. Not with urgency, Not with demand, but with light, with breath, with soil, with seeds, with simple steps, with quiet presence, with another day of being here, of being part of it, of being home.